2025 was a special year in hip hop, wouldn't you agree? Now, if you're a lover of hip hop, that statement is not ridiculous. You would totally be on board with that. But if you're somebody who only pays attention to hip hop in the mainstream, well, it did kind of see a drop off from a Billboard chart standpoint. But I'm here to actually give a nice little prediction for y'all. I feel like hip hop is going to have a reset and is going to go to another level in 2026. And there's a few artists that I think are going to reshape the way we view the genre moving forward. That's why in this video, I'm going to break down my 10 most anticipated hip hop artists of 2026 in a few. By the way, guys, my name is Uche and I make videos like this every single week, or at least I'm planning to. So if you enjoy what you see and you want to see more videos like this, hit that like button. If you want to see me grow, you want to see me elevate to my next subscriber goal, hit that subscribe button for your boy. Oh, and follow me on the socials on Instagram and Twitter at UCHAYVA, and come on board with all of the stuff that I typically rant about. All right, guys, now let's get to it. Okay. Let's talk about my most anticipated hip hop artists of 2026. But before we get into my list, y'all gotta make sure to tap into the other lists that I've dropped already. One being the most overrated albums of 2025, and the other one being the most underrated albums of 2025. Y'all go check that out. Now, 2026 is setting up to be what I would call a reset for hip hop. I think things are shifting back to artists being more intentional, creating more world-building studio album. But I think there's a couple of artists who've created a really massive hype factor, one being A$AP Rocky, the other one being J. Cole, of course Drake. The list goes on and on and on. And by the way, spoiler alert, those guys make my list. But if you guys recall, in 2025, there was a massive crisis in hip-hop, or so at least they wanted us to believe, because for the first time in decades, there were no hip-hop songs to make the Billboard Top Hot 100 charts. And that set off a ripple effect.
The lack of engagement with mainstream rap music right now, that rap music is less popular with mainstream America than before. Is there any truth to that?
A lot of the mainstream artists ain't out.
The hip hop I come from, everybody did something new.
That was the point.
Every other year or so.
Yeah.
I just don't like them trying to make it seem like because there's no rap on Billboard right now that all the rap is bad. And there's no good music out there, because that's
a horrible.
Yeah, that's a crazy.
That's the part that I don't like.
Personally, I think it was a deeper, darker sort of conspiracy. I'm being a little facetious there with the conspiracy. However, I think that stat was a bit overblown and over-reported. Very misleading, if you will, because it had to do more with the newer songs that they wanted to make space for versus songs that were dropped in previous years, who was in the top 100, but because there were new rules, a lot of those songs dropped off the list. But I digress. I think also there's going to be a big push for AI. AI has made waves in 2025 for mostly bad reasons, but there's going to be some modern ways that it's going to be used in the future. And so we're going to watch for that. And so because of that, I think there's going to be what I want to call a human authenticity tax. I think that fans now more than ever are going to wait longer in lines to get gear from their favorite artists. They're going to pay more to experience real live events, whether it's concerts and other experiences that artists have for their fans. And so 2026 is definitely shaping up to be much so a reset in hip hop. All right, now let's get into that list. First on my list, I gotta highlight Drake. And yes, what would a list be without bringing up Drizzy? I mean, seriously. All right, in all actuality, I think the hype behind Drake's upcoming Iceman album is through the roof. With the success of some sexy songs for you in 2025 and singles like Nokia, Give Me a Hug, What Did I Miss, and other moments that he's had throughout the year, I think fans are eager to see what does a solo project look like following everything that Drake has been through. Lawsuit, all type of shouting matches with people. He done beef with everybody on the planet. I think it's time we figure out what it looks like post Kendrick Lamar and see if Drake can put this all behind us. But I think Drake deserves to be on this list. Next, we gotta talk about J. Cole. I mean, mean, come on, guys. It's J. Cole. After 2024 with his Might Delete Later album, which peaked at number 2 on the Billboard charts, J. Cole has been silent, as always. Only popping up with singles here and there, like Port Antonio, Clouds, and some of the other singles that's popped off of Might Delete Later, which, by the way, was a very, very dope project. It did see some songs vanish, hence the Might Delete Later phrase, but the highly anticipated Fall Off album has been talked about for years. I mean, it might even be close to a decade. If I'm not mistaken, he even teased the Fall Off on KOD. Don't quote me on that, but I'm a J. Cole head, so I think I'm right about that. But if I'm right as well, I think the Fall Off is on the way this year. And this year, I'm talking 2026. I think it's time to prove and see if this is his last album, like he claims, or if the Fall Off is just some conceptual meaning for something else and he's fooling us all. But J. Cole needs to be on this list as well. Next, let's talk about A$AP Rocky. And I'll make this quick, guys, because as much as he's on my list for highly anticipated hip-hop artists of 2026, I'm not even certain if the album called Don't Be Dumb will actually drop, even though he's teased it for multiple years, even though he's pushed it back for multiple years, even though his last full-length album was 8 years ago. I think if A$AP Rocky is to drop this album in 2026, which I'll be honest, I think it's a surefire bet. It just depends on when. We're gonna see if A$AP Rocky is still a big dog in rap. I think it's time, man. Like the Rihanna cosign, the fashionista, the aura fit checks, all of those stimulus checks, we gonna see if they done dried up and A$AP can rely on his music, because the songs that he dropped in 2025, bunch of Lucy's, Taylor Swift, Hijack. Actually, I think Hijack came out in 2024, but you get the point, guys. Like, does A$AP Rocky still have it? We're gonna find out in 2026. I think I'm sure of that. Next, let's talk about the Queen of the Barbs, also known as Nicki Minaj. Now look, Nicki Minaj's Pink Friday 2 dropped in 2023, and around the time where Cardi B was teasing to drop her album, actually I think the album had already released, Nicki Minaj mysteriously went on Twitter and she teased that her next album is dropping in March of 2026. Now if that's right, we're in for a doozy. You know she gonna be responding to everything Cardi B, you know she gonna be responding to all the haters, because people have put Nicki Minaj through the ringer this year. Also, Nicki has brought a lot of controversy on herself. I mean, you saw what she did aligning herself with Donald Trump and the whole Nigeria genocide movement. There's a lot going on. Nicki has never been more hated, in my opinion, in terms of the narrative. So I think this next album is going to show a lot about where Nicki is musically and whether people truly still care about her music. And also, come on, like, let's be honest, like, everybody wants to compare her to Cardi B, especially numbers wise. We gonna see whose album sold more. That's coming. Yeah, next, let's talk about Lil Uzi Vert. I think after Lil Uzi Vert dropped Eternal Will Take Two, he's never been colder. He was never as disregarded, never as overlooked in the rap game since he's been out. But I think more recently, especially towards the end of 2025, he partnered with Roc Nation's distribution group. He dropped 3 singles back to back to back, and Relevant, Chanel Boy, and Regular. I think it shows that Uzi is on the right track to revive what once was a highly experimental aesthetic. It almost seems like we're getting the old Uzi back, and I think if that's correct, Uzi is definitely gonna make some noise in 2026. You can mark my words on that. You can book that. Next, let's talk about Pooh Shiesty, aka Mr. Brr himself. He recently was released from prison. He dropped his First Day Out track, which made a lot of noise on social, on YouTube, and everywhere that rap fans get their music, and they essentially crowned Pooh Shiesty as the most anticipated real gangster left in hip-hop. Now, if that's true, which I actually kind of think that is, because you know we're in an era where street rap is dying from a commercial standpoint, and it almost seems like Pooh Shiesty is the last of the Mohicans. I think there's a spot on my list for Shiesty because his influence before he went to prison was untouched. He had the Shiesty mask, he had Back in Blood, which recently went 8 times platinum featuring Lil Durk, and ultimately I think Pooh Shiesty is primed. If he can stay out of trouble, stay out of prison, he's primed to make some noise in 2026 as one of the few street rappers that the culture still cares about. Next, I gotta talk about Yeat, because Yeat is one of those interesting artists. He came from Rage, he's slowly transitioning into alternative pop and other genres, and he's sort of become this enigma turned superstar, I'd argue. With the popularity of his song Come and Go, it's become clear to me that Yeat is one of those guys that's here to stay. Now, I wasn't the biggest Yeat fan early on. There was a point where I didn't really understand his music, but I can confidently say in 2026, with the production style, with rumors that he's going to be making music, or at least dropping a song with Billie Eilish, I think it's obvious as ever that Yeat, if he drops another album in 2026, which follows his 2024 album called Lifestyle that went #1, yeah, I think Yeat is primed for greatness in 2026. Next, I gotta highlight Molly Santana. Now, this one is a bit of a left field selection for most, but the reason why I feel like she's primed for a very massive 2026 is because, first of all, I think she's super talented. She dropped an album in 2025, which was really a deluxe to her Molly and Her Week of Wonders project. It didn't have any sort of notable Billboard performances, but she did have some songs like So Right, Unstoppable featuring Che, Windows Up, that really made some noise. And then also, I think Uzi shouting her out on Regular was a really dope look for her. Not to mention, I've paid attention to this a lot in more recent past when it comes to hip hop, and I've noticed the introduction and really the dominance of Asian rappers. And so with other artists like A Witch, who's also Japanese, you got Jenny, who was also part of the K-pop group called Blackpink. There's a lot of artists, man. Like, even from an R&B standpoint, you could even throw in Sailor. And so I think just from a cultural standpoint, it seems like the Asian community is really coming into hip hop in a major way. And I wouldn't be surprised if Molly Santana surprises a lot of folks in 2026. Next, I gotta talk about Doechii. You know, Doechii's one of those artists that has made a massive name for herself, not only in the underground, not only in the streets, but also in the commercial space. She is regularly highlighted by the Grammys, especially the one coming up in 2026 where she's nominated for her Anxiety song. But she's also coming off of winning Best Rap Album for Alligator Bites Never Heal, which wasn't even really an album, it was a mixtape in 2024. And so I think more so now than ever, especially going into 2026, Doechii's debut album is going to be massively critiqued, massively loved. It's going to get a lot of looks. And so Doechii, to me, is one of the artists to watch for in 2026. And lastly, I gotta talk about King Carson, because as someone who's come from a massive cult following, has become way more commercial than I personally ever thought he would. He coming off of his #1 album in 2025 called More Chaos. Every single day you're seeing more of his songs hit the algorithms. You're seeing people like Kim Kardashian and Northwest vibing to King Carson music. I'm starting to see King Carson transition from the understudy of Playboi Carti to potentially becoming a star. And so King Carson, to me, has a lot of potential. I think this rage sound is not going anywhere. And so as you can see, I've listed a bunch of rage artists, and King Carson is one of the leaders of that genre. And so I gotta talk about King Carson, man. He's primed for a big year, 2026. But what do you guys think? Do you feel like the artists that I listed out are some of the most anticipated rappers of 2026? Or did I get the list completely wrong? Y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, I know y'all will. As a matter of fact, drop a couple names that I failed to mention. Hey, I'll see y'all in the comments, and I'll see you in the new year. And for those of you guys watching this in the new year, Happy New Year. Salute.